In today's soundbite, I want to talk about a subject that isn't necessarily directly related to vinyl playback, but it's certainly applicable to what we do as audiophiles, and has something to do with why all this testing equipment is surrounding me right now. A couple weeks ago, I came to the conclusion that I'm no longer happy with the speakers I have. And they do many things well, but the one thing that they don't do well is tonality in the higher mid-range and higher frequencies. What finally pushed me over the edge and made me realize that I was missing something is I suddenly realized how little classical music I was listening to. I used to listen to mostly classical music, but since getting those speakers, that had ended, and I'd moved more towards listening to small ensemble jazz, female singers, female vocalists, and such. And that's been a persistent nag for me that has been underlying and not quite something I was aware of on the surface, but now I certainly am. And I'm reminded of something that Wally would hammer home with me regularly when we were assessing the changes, differences wrought upon our systems whenever we would put in a new component or change something with the setup. He'd always ask, have you listened to music with masked strings yet? And there's a reason for this. There's a reason why he would ask this. And I'd forgotten this lesson, and it's one that I want to share with you. Masked strings, that is a large ensemble of strings that you would obviously find in an orchestra or chamber music, are very difficult to recreate with tonal accuracy. When it's done well, it's just gorgeous and silky and full of texture and life and vibrancy. And when it's not done well, it can either be dull and lifeless, or it can drive you as being strident, drive you from the room in its stridency. Well, the truth had been with my system that masked strings no longer had their beautiful, gorgeous, lush presentation. But here I am, I'm going about redoing crossovers, changing drivers, and that's what all this testing equipment is for. But the thing I want to share with you is consider the possibility that if you only listen to one type of music, or limited types of music, it may be because your system isn't delivering everything that it could. That you're choosing music, because this was certainly applied to me. I was choosing music that the system did well, and I was disinclined to listen to the music that it didn't do so well, where it showed its warts. And that's not how I want to listen to music. I want the stereo to be at my service, not the other way around. When you're doing evaluations of any component or setup in your system, or certainly speakers, listen to masked strings. How do they sound? Do they have that wonderful harmonic glow, that texture and vibrancy? Or are they strident, or are they dull? So hopefully this tip can be useful to you when you go about assessing how your component or your system, your setup is performing. Feel free to drop me a line to see what you discovered. There it is. Until next week when we get another soundbite.